Okay, great. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Karina Rampasad, along with my colleagues Ayana Morel and Maya Baino. This evening, we'll be presenting on the topic of power and influence. Next slide. Okay, so this is just a small breakdown of what our presentation is going to look like. So firstly, we'll have introduction and the key concepts defined. Secondly, we'll have some stuff about characteristics of a leader and some examples. Third, we'll talk about the leadership styles. Fourth, power and types of power. Number 5, ethical consideration of power and politics. And number 6, discussion, conclusion, and the references will be stated. So let's get into our introduction. In today's interconnected world, power and influence play a pivotal role in shaping individuals' behaviors, societal structures, and global dynamics. This presentation delves into the multifaceted nature of power and influence, exploring their definition, manifestations, and implications across various contexts. By examining theoretical frameworks, empirical studies, and real-world examples, this presentation seeks to elucidate the complex interplay between power and influence and their significance in contemporary society. Through a comprehensive analysis, this presentation aims to provide insight into the mechanisms through which power and influence operate, their effects on individuals and communities, and avenues for fostering ethical and equitable distribution of power in pursuit of societal well-being. So some keywords that we're going to discuss this afternoon are power, influence, leader, societal impact, and ethical considerations. So this is our definitions to note. All of our definitions were taken from the Leading Experience text, DAFT 2014. So firstly, we have power. It's the ability of one person or department in an organization to influence other people to bring about desired outcomes. And influence, the effect of a person's actions have on the attitudes, values, beliefs, or actions of others. A leader, someone who inspires, guides, and supports their team to achieve shared goals. And last but not least, leadership, the capacity to guide and impact outcomes, enabling groups of people to work together to accomplish what they couldn't achieve individually. Now, each of these topics will be going more in depth when we get to that section. So just reiterating, what is a leader? So a leader is someone who inspires, guides, supports, and has the ability to influence their team or a group of persons to achieve a specific goal. Yeah, next slide. So I have a question for everybody else. Does anybody know who these people are? And if they do you all think they are leaders? Anybody? Okay, so we'll move on and we'll come back after I discuss a topic, okay? So what and who is a good leader? So as I've just reiterated about what a leader is. Now, who is a good leader? A good leader possesses a combination of essential qualities that inspire and guide others effectively. Let's explore some of these qualities. So we have 9. Number 1, empathy. They understand other person's feelings and perspectives, and they foster a supportive environment. Number 2, confidence. They speak courageously and believing in their decisions even in challenging situations. Number 3, accountability. They own both their own successes and failures and take responsibility for outcomes. Number 4, transparency. Sharing information openly and building trust within the team. Number 5, delegation. They trust others' abilities and empower them to contribute in whatever task they may need to get done. Number 6, compassion. They help others in need and show kindness. Number 7, humility. They celebrate others' achievements and recognize their contributions. Number 8, integrity. Upholding strong moral values and ethical behaviors. And number 9, developing paths to solutions. Number 9, vision. Developing paths to solutions and inspiring others with a clear direction. So this does not encompass everything that makes a good leader, but it's some of the top things that make a good leader. And you have to remember that great leaders, they continuously learn, adapt, grow, and embrace challenges while seeking feedback. They intentionally put themselves in situations that develop their tenacity and fortitude to motivate and guide others. Right, so we're going back to these lovely people here. So I know a majority of the people will know the person on the right-hand side of the screen. Anybody would like to take a guess on maybe who the person on the left-hand side is? Okay, so the person on the left-hand side here is someone by the name of Mr. Warren Jeffs. He is an American religious leader, and he's from the organization which is formerly known as the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints. He's the founder and the head of the movement, and doing my own research, this is not my saying of what he is, but doing my own research, a lot of people consider him to be the leader of a cult, or the cult of this church that they want to call it. And the reason they say that is because he promotes polygamy, which is the marriage of more than one woman. So he himself has 48 wives. So yes, that's who he is. And the second picture is Mr. Barack Obama, and he is the 44th US president. So everybody who knows Mr. Barack Obama will say he is a good leader and he is a leader. So can we say the same thing for the gentleman on the left, Mr. Warren Jeffs? We could say that maybe he is a leader because he influenced other person's perspective on life and their societal beliefs. But can we say he is maybe a good leader? Question mark. Who knows? Okay, so we'll move on from this topic now. So we have 3 leadership styles that we will be discussing today. 1 being charismatic leadership, 2 being transformational leadership, and the 3rd one being transactional leadership. Ayana, we're not hearing the voice note.
Okay, I'm not sure what's happening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but we're not hearing the voice note.
Okay, let me see what's going on here. Are you hearing it?
No. Let me try to pull it up on my phone and see if it plays from my phone, okay?
Okay, because I'm hearing it. I don't know why it's not.
You're not hearing it because you didn't share your audio from your computer when you were setting up the slide.
Oh, okay. I'm not quite sure how to do that, honestly. I'm not sure if anyone can.
You have to stop sharing and go to your audio settings before you go to share, and then you'll see something that will indicate to you share, include computer audio.
Okay. 1 second. My audio settings in my personal computer. Or is it on the
no on Teams software?
On Teams. Okay. Let me stop sharing.
You seeing it?
I'm in device settings on Teams.
All right. So actually, click on share And before you select what you're going to share, you should see a little slide knob that says include
Include
computer.
sound.
Yeah.
Okay, I found it. Thank you.
All right. So let's try that again.
Hi, good night. My name is Maya Baino, and I will now be discussing some of the leadership styles that this chapter discussed. But first, I would like to start off by listing the 3 different types of leadership styles, which are as follows: charismatic leadership, transformational leadership, and transactional leadership.
Okay, so I will be doing charismatic leadership. So a charismatic leader possesses strong communication skills, charm, and confidence, often inspiring and motivating others through their personality and vision. They tend to have a magnetic effect on people, rallying them around shared goals or ideas. So according to DAFT 2014, a charismatic leader possesses many positive attributes and skills, some of which are, as I mentioned, strong communication skills. They articulate their vision and ideas in a compelling and persuasive manner. 2. Charismatic leaders exude self-assurance and conviction, instilling trust and belief in their followers. Charisma. They possess a magnetic personality that draws people to them and makes them what is known as influential. Visionary thinking is number 4. They have a clear and inspiring vision for the future, which motivates others to follow them. And number 5, empathy. They understand the emotions and perspectives of others, which enables them to connect on a deeper level and build strong communication and trust within their group. Number 6, adaptability. So they're usually flexible, open-minded, and they're able to adjust their approach based on the needs of their followers and also the circumstance of the event. Number 7, passion. They demonstrate genuine enthusiasm and passion for their goals, which is contagious and inspires others to share their commitment. And number 8, authenticity. They are genuine and true to themselves, which foster trust and loyalty among their followers. So here we have some examples of a charismatic leader. On the left-hand side, we have Dr. Martin Luther King, and he's often considered a charismatic leader due to several key factors, right? So he had an inspiring vision. He articulated a powerful vision of the racial equality and social justice, appealing to deeply held values and aspirations of his followers. He possessed a commanding and persuasive speaking style, which indicates strong communication. He had moral authority, which is a commitment to non-violent resistance and his unwavering adherence to principles of justice. He had courage and resilience, which is despite facing immense opposition, including violence and threats to his life. Dr. King remained steadfast and resolute, inspiring others through his bravery and determination. These qualities, among with many other, combined to make Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. a charismatic leader who inspired millions and continues to be celebrated for his contributions and social progress. And on the right-hand side now, we have Mr. Steve Jobs, and he's often considered a charismatic leader for many other things as well. So one, his passion and enthusiasm. He exuded passion and enthusiasm for his work, inspiring those around him with his energy and dedication. Innovative thinking. He was known for his willingness to challenge the status, pushing boundaries and driving change into the technological industry. And his resilience and determination. Despite facing setbacks and criticism, Mr. Jobs demonstrated resilience, bouncing back from failures and relentlessly pursuing his goals. And again, these were amongst many other qualities is what makes him an example of a charismatic leader, because he left a lasting impact on the technology industry and which continues to revolutionize as we speak. So some advantages of a charismatic leader. So we have emotional appeal. They create an emotional connection with their followers. They are inspired by their vision, seeing a chance to reach their own dreams, and they foster strong loyalties among those who choose to follow. Number two, they encourage different thinking. They share their vision, and it encourages people to think differently. They may consider bigger plans or dreams that were previously unimaginable, or that people think that they may not have been able to achieve. Even though following a charismatic leader sometimes requires a leap of faith, there are always individuals willing to take that risk. Number three, reduce turnover rates. So organizations that are led by these type of leaders often experience low turnover rate, meaning less employees tend to leave their job, and yeah. So employees feel more connected to the leader than to the company itself. The workplace becomes more welcoming and people come to work feeling happier due to open communication and occasional risk-taking by their leader. And four, positive impact on society. They create a positive societal change. As we just mentioned, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. as an example. His speeches and actions shifted how people thought about specific issues that I mentioned, such as racial equity and social justice. He inspired others to work towards a better country and stood side by side with those who shared his vision and made sure that he was remembered for what he was fighting for. So I'll hand over now to, I believe it's Maya, who has the rest of these slides here. We're not hearing anything, right, Ayana?
You're not hearing it?
No.
I'm not sure why, because we just fixed the issue. So I'm not sure why you're not hearing it.
Try it again.
Try Bob. Try the audio again.
Yep, try it, but don't mute your mic.
Don't use my mic.
Don't mute your microphone.
Oh, my mic wasn't muted. Okay. Are you hearing it? Are you hearing it?
No.
No, we're not hearing it. You have to turn up the volume on the slide.
Okay. Volume is up.
All right, hit play.
Sure. Okay. Are you hearing it?
No, are you hearing it on your end?
Yes, I am. I'm not sure if my audio is giving the issue, but Karina, would you share? Seeing as mine is not working.
Yeah, sure. Let me try to share.
All right.
Is everyone seeing my screen?
Yeah, we're seeing it.
Okay, great. So slideshow.
Hi, good night. I know, and I will now be discussing some of the leadership styles that this chapter discussed.
Did you all hear that?
Yeah, we heard it.
Okay, great. So the other one should play now. Great.
The Black Hat of Charisma. As Karina just mentioned, charismatic leadership has a lot of advantages. However, we will now see that this is not always the case, as charismatic leadership can be used to achieve either positive or negative outcomes. That is, they are both socialized leaders and personalized leaders. Socialized leaders seek the interests of the entire organization or society. Dr. Martin Luther King and Mr. Steve Jobs are both socialized leaders. Two other examples are Winston Churchill and John F. Kennedy. While personalized leaders seek their own self-interest, just as Adolf Hitler did when he prosecuted and committed mass genocide of the Jews during the Holocaust in World War II. Another personalized leader was Charles Manson, the cult leader who not only committed but also orchestrated the murder of innocent people in the late 1960s. Examples of socialized leaders. This slide shows 2 out of the 4 examples that I just gave for socialized leaders. The following leaders deserve respect and admiration for their contributions to society. The first image is Mr. Winston Churchill, and the second image is Mr. John F. Kennedy. Examples of personalized leaders. These leaders reaped the fruit of the seeds that they planted in society, which were deemed as being brutal, tyrant, and deadly. Society also feared and were easily angered by the mention of their names. The first image is Adolf Hitler, and the second image is Charles Manson. Transformational leadership. A transformational leader possesses the ability to bring about significant change in followers and the organization through positive relationships. Transformational leaders focus on intangible values or vision that they have in common with their followers, build relationships with them, and then use it to their advantage to bring about major changes in the organization's vision, strategy, culture, products, or technologies. Let's examine how the formation of good relationships prior to working with someone or in a group can influence the results. Relationships open the door to communication, which is the key to successful teamwork. Think about this semester when you were placed in groups and expected to present results of a certain standard. Which group did you work best in? One that consisted of people you already had a relationship with, or you took the time to form a relationship with, or the group with the members whose names you didn't even know. I'm sure that most of us would agree that we worked better in the groups that involved members that we shared values, goals, interests, etc. with. This is because if you get to know the persons on an individual level outside of the group, you will most likely know what motivates them, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, you'll be able to keep each other on track and use your strengths to benefit the group while also helping each other with your weaknesses. This type of leadership style is successful because there is a clear, open line of communication that is established prior to the decision to implement changes within the organization. Transformational leadership is learned and can be easily adapted by some personality traits that possess a high level of emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize, understand, and sympathize with others' emotions. It is easier for certain personality traits, such as extroverts, to become transformational leaders. This is because they are more inclined, willing, and open to the idea of talking to new people and forming and developing relationships with them. Some personality traits possess the natural ability to read and understand others' emotions, even strangers, which forms strong relationships fast. Think about your friends. Which are you closest with? The one that you met during your academic journey in school, or your childhood friend who you never grow apart from because they just get you. They understand how you feel in certain situations and why you feel that way without you even having to open your mouth. If you just look at them, they'll automatically understand your emotions way better than if you had explained it to them. Some famous examples of transformational leaders are Elon Musk and Oprah Winfrey. Please note, transformational and charismatic leadership are both based strongly on the leader's personality and intangible qualities rather than on their position within the organization. In simple terms, what this means is that these types of leaders tend to use their personal qualities, such as their personality, relationships that they have formed, rather than their position of authority, to get their followers to obey them and follow and achieve their values, visions. Transactional leadership. A transactional leader recognizes their followers' needs or desires and then communicates to them that those needs would be satisfied in exchange for completing certain tasks. Essentially, what this is saying is that transactional leadership focuses on the exchange of skills, knowledge, resources, or effort between leaders and their followers. Followers receive rewards for job performances, while leaders benefit from the completion of tasks. Everyone gains something in the situation. Transactional leaders focus on the present and running the business efficiently. Their main goal is to improve daily productivity by increasing production, and they tend to excel at keeping the organization running smoothly and efficiently. This type of leader helps build followers' confidence and improve productivity and morale within an organization. By clarifying expectations, leaders help build followers' confidence as they would know what is expected of them, and they won't have to complete their task blindly or with doubts in their mind. Transactional leaders tend to not promote change. Because transactional leaders are committed to following the rules and focused on the present, they do not look for issues within the organization or implement changes to improve the future. They maintain stability rather than promote change. Please note, transactional skills are important for all leaders to possess, but it is ideal that they also possess other leadership skills. This is because the world around us is constantly changing, and organizations would also have to change or adapt in order to survive and be successful. So while transactional leadership gets the work done efficiently with expected results, it is important for leaders to also utilize other leadership styles if they want their organization to grow. Examples of transformational leaders. The first image shows a picture of Mr. Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla. The second image shows a picture of Ms. Oprah Winfrey, an American talk show host. Examples of transactional leaders. The first image shows a picture of Mr. Howard Schultz, the former CEO of Starbucks. And the second image shows a picture of Mr. Bill Gates, the famous billionaire and co-founder of Microsoft. Transformational versus transactional leadership. Transformational leadership differs from transactional leadership in four significant areas. 1. It develops followers into leaders. Transformational leaders bring issues to their followers' attention, sets a vision or mission, and then gives them the freedom to accomplish it. This procedure encourages followers to change their perception to think like a leader and initiate productive change within the organization. What this is saying is that the leader identifies an issue within the organization, communicates the issue to their followers in a clear, precise manner so that they can comprehend not only what the issue is, but also the need and vision for change and how they can contribute to this. Lastly, the leader backs off and gives them the freedom and space they require to think and do their part to accomplish the vision. When the leader does this, it helps the followers to gain a deep insight into the leader's thinking process and also gives them a sense of independence. Since this type of leadership is based on positive relationships, if the leader recognizes that their follower has continuously increased their productivity to work towards the vision, they can promote them to a position of power, making them a leader. 2. It evaluates the concerns of followers based on the hierarchy of needs. Transformational leaders cater to lower-level physical needs, safety and security, through adequate wages and safe working conditions. They also cater to higher-level psychological needs, self-esteem and self-actualization. By setting an example, assigning tasks, evaluating them, and then placing them at a relevant level within the organization, where they can also initiate change. This point is centered around Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow's theory is a psychological theory based on the idea that human behavior is motivated by their needs. It also states that all human needs can be classified into 5 stages, with the lowest level being physical needs, the need for safety and security, and the highest level being psychological needs, the need for self-esteem and self-actualization. These stages are represented in the form of a triangle, with the lowest level at the bottom of the triangle and the highest level at the top of it. The theory states that in order to satisfy higher level needs, first we must satisfy lower level needs and work our way up the triangle. That being said, after a leader rewards their followers for completing various tasks by satisfying their lower level needs, such as increasing their pay or improving their working conditions. They could then think of new ways to reward them. If they follow Maslow's theory, they could reward them by recognizing their efforts and congratulating them on it, or by promoting them within the business. 3. It identifies followers it inspires followers to go beyond their own interests for the good of the group. Transformational leaders motivate followers to do more than their job entails. Followers admire, trust, and desire to be like their leaders and thus, in turn, follow in their footsteps and believe in the need for change. Followers in this type of leadership tend to follow their leaders because of their shared interests or beliefs, their close relationship, and in some cases, their desire to be like them. Because they strongly believe in the cause, the possible risk involved does not deter them from pushing for change, as they recognize that the change will not only benefit them, but it would also benefit the whole organization. And because they care about and trust the leader, they want to see the organization improve.
Okay, so I'll be taking back over now. So let's talk about the word boss and leader. Are they the same thing? So according to a definition that I got off encyclopedia.com, it says a boss is someone who gives orders in a domineering manner. When we refer that to what a leader is someone who inspires, guides, and supports and has the ability to influence the team to achieve a specific goal. So if we put those two definitions side by side, can we come up with a comparison or more so a difference between these two things? So within the Caribbean here, we tend to use the term boss or boss, as people say, in a very loose manner. A lot of people don't see it as a trait, or as we just said, like, they tend to speak in a domineering manner. A lot of people use it to describe their employer. They call their employer a boss, right? Or, yeah. So let's move to the next slide and we'll discuss the differences between both of them. So if we look at this picture here, can we tell the difference, or well, it says leader and boss. Okay, so well, you could see from the picture there that the boss, which is the one underneath, you could see that they're more of telling people what to do, whereas a leader, they influence by showing what to do. So if we just look at the many differences within this one picture, so the boss, they talk more than listen, whereas the leader listen more than talk, and they find a solution, which is here that we see that they are helping the persons within their group or their organization with the workload, whereas the boss is telling them what to do and making the members do all of the work. So some more things to differentiate between a boss and a leader. So a boss criticizes, he identifies weakness, he places blame, and he demands result. So from this picture here, we could definitely see some of those attributes. Whereas in a leader encourages, they identify natural gifts, and they tend to delegate tasks according to those gifts so that each person's task is suited to them. And this helps dissolve any sort of conflict that may arise. The leader takes accountability for what is done or what is not done. He or she reveals his vulnerability. And again, this picture shows that they inspire performance by being at the forefront of the work, guiding and supporting their members. So what is power? To reiterate what I said earlier, it's the ability of a person, department, or organization to influence other people to bring about a desired outcome. So here we have a small diagram showing the types of power and the categories under each one. So we have personal power and we have positional power. And under these, we have different types of power. So let's start with personal power. This type of power is centered on a person's character, skills, and follows recognition. And positional power now, this is generated by a person's rank or position within a hierarchy. For example, a contractor will more likely to be influenced to build in a certain way if an engineer tells him how to build, rather than if maybe, let's just say, a pool maintenance person tells him how to build a building. So let's look at each one under this topic now. So under personal power, we have expert power. This type of power is based on knowledge and expertise. When you possess specialized skills or experience, others trust your judgment and follow you to lead. So if we go back again to the example of the contractor listening to the engineer and not the pool maintenance person. And the second power under positional power, in fact, no, the second one under personal power is referent power, and this emerges from being trusted, respected, and admired by others. Leaders who treat everyone fairly, show empathy, and maintain positive relationships, while referent power. People willingly follow them because of their character and likability. And now we move on to positional power. So the three under this one is coercive power, reward power, and legitimate power. So coercive power stems from the ability to punish or impose sanctions on others. So for example, threatening someone with maybe a demotion or even losing their job if they don't meet a certain objective demonstrates coercive power. And it relies mainly on instilling fear into people or some sort of negative consequence. The second one is reward power, which is just the opposite of coercive power. So it arises from your capacity to provide incentives or rewards, such as maybe bonuses, promotions, extra time off, and it usually gives the ability to grant more positive outcomes, and it encourages compliance and cooperation within the organization or a group of people. And last but not least, we have legitimate power, and this type of power is derived from a person's formal position within an organization. When you hold a specific role or title, you automatically have legitimate power. People comply with your directives because you are official authority. So an example of this could be within the college, where we have our heads of departments and they have legitimate power. Your lecturers may just let's just say so plagiarism is a big thing. Let's just say you plagiarize an entire paper. There are sanctions to these things, but your lecturer may give you a warning. Whereas if they need to take it up to higher authority, such as your head of department, it could even result in expulsion from the program or even from the entire school itself. So this was just everything that I just said, more summarized. So I won't go through this again. So now we have response to the use of power, and we have 6 here: compliance, resistance, commitment, negotiation, adaptation, and resignation. However, only 3 of these are discussed by the text, the DAFT text, which is compliance, resistance, and commitment. The others I just brought in because doing my own research, I realized there's more than 3. So I wouldn't go in depth in all of them. So the next slide, here we see position power and personal power and what each one sort of bring about. So You all hearing me?
Yes, nice and clear.
Okay. So when people successfully use positional power, which is that of legitimate reward and coercive power, the response is usually compliance. But when there's excessive use, there's usually what is known as resistance. So compliance, according to the DAFT text, is the following of directions of a person with power regardless of how much agreement there is with that person's direction. And resistance is the act of disobeying orders or deliberately avoiding carrying out instructions. So we could see this in many situations within our own country. So there was a point in time where seatbelts were not, they were advised to be used, but there was never a fine for it. So when the fine was brought out, people decided to comply with it because, they're going to have to pay money if they're not wearing it. But there was also some sort of resistance to that same thing because there are people who believe that seatbelts cause more harm than they do good, right? So that's just one take on that. And then with personal power, with the use of this, there's usually commitment. Commitment is adapting or adopting to the leader's viewpoint and enthusiastically carrying out instructions, right? So an example of this is usually when you have very good leaders who cater to your needs. You usually find persons being more committed to an organization rather than being disloyal, right? So this was just again what I just said, but let's just go through the last three that was not discussed by the DAFT text very briefly. So in some cases, you also have negotiation and compromise, and they may be sought to address concerns about exercise of power and reach a mutually acceptable resolution. It may not be a resolution where either party agrees nor disagrees. It may just be a common ground that they decided to come up with in order to get past the conflict. Number 5, you have adaptation. Some individuals or groups may adapt to the exercise of power by adjusting their behavior or beliefs to align with the expectations of those in power, either willingly or under coercion. And we just discussed what coercion is. And number 6, we even have now resignation. In situations where individuals feel powerless to affect change, they may resign themselves to the status quo or disengage from political, social participation altogether. And we have seen that in many occasions, or we ourselves may have gone through that where, our employers have, or even members of groups have pushed us beyond a point where we cannot accept what is being given to us and decide that we are going to resign from that position. So now we have the misuse of power. So I have a clip here to play. I'm not sure all those who are going to remember this incident that occurred recently, but let's listen to it. Okay, so I'm not sure if it came across very clearly, but it was a situation recently where a police officer spoke to a member of the public who was calling to report a robbery at their home in a very distasteful manner. Now, if we know the police is there to serve and protect, and instead of using their power to do this, she exerted her power in a very I would say a very distasteful manner, and that is what made the public or the citizen there just lose their trust in them because they misuse their power, right? So let's just um, go through the list of things we have here, and I'll just bring it back to the example. So number one is the erosion of trust. When those in power abuse their authority, trust in institutions, leaders, and system diminishes. Citizens become skeptical, leading to a breakdown in social cohesion. So again, with the incident there just now, we could see the police is a person of their authority, and instead of providing help to this person who is in distress, she maybe have caused the person more distress by saying what she said to them there, and that may have led to some sort of distrust in the entire police force. So inequality and justice is number two. So misused power perpetuates inequality. Discrimination, favoritism, and unfair practices harm marginalized groups disproportionately. Legal systems can become tools of oppression, further widening the gap between the powerful and the powerless. And again, we could see that within the example there of the police officer. So she basically oppressed the person's concern, and it's going to cause more distrust in the police system, more than we usually have now, because there's so much crime that is going on, and it seems to be that the police force is not responding very well to all of it. And number three, social unrest and revolt. History shows that societies pushed to the brink by power abuse often erupts in protests, revolutions, or civil disobedience. Examples of these are the French Revolution, Arab Spring, and the Black Lives Matter movement. Number four, psychological toll. Victims of power misuse suffer emotionally, mentally, and physically. Trauma, anxiety, and depression result from oppressive systems. Fear of retaliation stifles dissent and perpetuates suffering. And again, with the phone call there, you could hear that the citizen was taken aback by what was said, and it's probably not what he was expecting to be said. So that also causes some sort of emotional turmoil to that person. And number five, economic consequence. Misuse power can lead to economic instability, corruption, embezzlement, and unethical business practices harm. So that is it for my part. I will now go back to Maya's part on the role of dependency.
Please listen attentively to the current slide as well as the one that follows it, because grasping the concepts mentioned in these two slides is a crucial part of understanding the sources of leader power in an organization, which we will discuss later on in this chapter. The role of dependency. When a person has control over something that others want and need, they gain power. Take, for example, when a new singer begins to rise to fame and agencies begin competing for them. The singer holds all the power as they possess something that the agencies want, their talent. And thus, they would be the one making the decision about which agency they would sign with. This power also gives them the ability to demand that certain conditions be met in order for them to work with the agency. Because dependency is a key function of power, the more someone depends on a resource that someone else has, the greater the other person's power will be. People and organizations have power because other people depend on them for information, resources, cooperation, etc. Typically, higher level management controls these resources and supplies it to lower level managers, which gives higher level managers power over lower level managers. The level of dependency and ultimately the power dynamics between a leader and their followers can change depending on the current economic circumstance. When unemployment is low and there are a lot of jobs available, managers need employees more than employees need managers. This is because the employees can leave at any time and go to another job for whatever reason, whether that be because they are offered more or they are simply ready to make a change. However, it might be hard for the managers to replace them, as many of the population are already employed. On the other end of the spectrum, there are times when this dynamic changes. The unemployment level is high, jobs are hard to find, people have a hard time finding comparable jobs and salaries elsewhere. During these times, organizational leaders have greater power over employees because most people are dependent on the organization for their livelihood. In summary, this type of dependency primarily affects a leader's possession power, which is based on formal authority and the ability to bestow rewards and punishments. When supervisors are dependent on employees, such as in a tight labor market, leaders must gain and exercise personal power to a greater extent. Because people will often stay in a job where they admire and respect the leader, even if other opportunities are plentiful. When jobs are scarce, it is easier for leaders to get by relying on position power, but they won't get the full benefit of employees' enthusiasm and commitment. Control over resources. Dependency within organizations is related to a person's control over resources, such as jobs, rewards, materials, expertise, knowledge, information, financial support, and time. People are more dependent on leaders and organizations when the resources that they possess are important, scarce, or non-substitutable. That is, when the employees, not the manager, perceives it as having those three characteristics, because they are the ones that would have to accept, want, or need the resources. Resources can be seen as being important if it is an essential element in a product. If people in an organization perceive the resource as being important, it creates dependency, and the opposite can be said if they don't perceive it as being important. Resources can be important for a variety of reasons, such as if it is an essential element of a key product, it directly generates sales, or it is critical to reducing or avoiding uncertainty for the organization's CEOs. Organizations also developed a high dependency on employees that contribute greatly to their final product. Thus, newer or younger employees can gain more power over older or senior employees if they are seen as being a bigger asset to the organization because of their level of skill, training, or experience. Scarcity refers to whether the resource is easy or difficult to obtain. A resource that is difficult or expensive to acquire is viewed as being more valuable and creates more dependency than one that is widely available and affordable. Non-substitutable. If a resource does not have any substitutes, the leader or organization that controls it will have more power. Let's think about it for a second. Who do you think has more control over citizens in a country? The company that has control over gas and oil, NP, or a company that has control over milk and drinks, Nestle? The obvious answer is NP. That being said, this is the exact reason why companies like WASA and Tech have more power in the country than other companies. Sources of leader power in organizations. As mentioned above, this diagram shows the sources that increases power in an organization, which are interdepartmental dependency, control over information, organizational centrality, and coping with uncertainty. Does anything on this slide look familiar to you? As the labels indicate, some of the sources of power mentioned above are directly linked to the role of dependency and control over resources, which we just covered. Now let's break down and examine the concepts mentioned in the previous slide. The four sources of leader power in organizations are 1. Interdepartmental dependency. If one department is dependent on another department for materials, resources, and information, then the department that is receiving the resources has less power than the other department that supplies them. In an organization, resources tend to flow between departments in one direction. When this occurs, it illustrates the power that one department has over the other department. 2. Control over information. Access to information, control over how, to whom, and when it is shared, is often determined by a person's position within the organization. Most leaders recognize that information is a primary business resource and that by controlling different aspects of it, they can influence how decisions are made. They, top-level leaders, acknowledge the fact that they have access to more information than lower-level supervisors or other employees because of their position within the organization. As a result, they release information selectively to influence others and shape actions and decisions. However, control over information can also be a source of power for lower-level leaders and employees. Employees who have excessive access to information needed by leaders to make decisions gain power as a result. For example, when the owner of a bank is dependent on its accountants to balance their books. 3. Organizational centrality. The level of power that a leader possesses is determined by the extent to which the work of the department contributes to the final output of the organization. As inferred above, centrality reflects a leader's or a department's role in the primary activity of an organization. This can be illustrated in IT companies when a web designer or company technician has more control than an accountant because their job aligns with the nature of the business and thus they contribute more to the company's final output. 4. Coping with uncertainty. Because the environment is constantly changing, it causes strategic issues and uncertainties within organizations. Departments that help organizations cope with these changes will increase their power. This point is similar to the point mentioned above, in that one or more departments are deemed as being more important to the organization than other departments, and thus they are given more power within the organization. In this case, however, the department that adapted to and helped the company with the ever-changing environment are deemed as having more power than those that don't.
Ethical considerations in power and politics. At times, we can be uncomfortable discussing power. This is because sometimes we can see power as something negative or harmful. The use of power tactics are not inherently negative or positive, but there are appropriate and ethical ways to go about using power and politics. Is everyone hearing me?
Yeah.
Okay. The use of power in a company will be managed by ethical standards that counteract maltreatment and exploitation. Using power ethically. Some examples of ethical use of power are dealing with team members impartially. Leaders must not be biased when dealing with their team, as members can become resentful and unwilling because they feel as though no matter what they do, they will never be treated fairly. Being considerate at all times. Being considerate of team members' needs, feelings, and experiences. Expressing empathy can help members feel heard, seen, and valued. Remaining well informed on what is going on in the organization so that proper decisions can be made. Not being up to date on the happenings of the organization can cause leaders to make poor decisions, so it is important to have all the information before making changes. Being careful with others' self-esteem. Being careful not to diminish others' self-esteem. It is important to interact with team members tactfully and considerately so that they can feel valued and appreciated. Being cordial and respectful to all co-workers. Leaders must not become egotistical and ignorant when dealing with their fellow members, as it may cause them to become disgusted and withdraw from the team. Instead, they should adopt an approach that suggests that they are equal and no better than their fellow team members to prevent anyone from feeling looked down upon. Next slide, please. An open, moderated discussion about politics in the workplace can result in a clear understanding of the various beliefs of coworkers and how those beliefs interact with their daily work duties and each other. It can also help to balance diverse perceptions of the involved parties. By doing this, it can be uncovered that some coworkers harbor harmful, conflicting beliefs that interfere with their interactions with their work partners and the regular workflow of the organization. This can activate a significant adjustment in the routine work operations to get through clashes and conflict that they may have, resulting in a smoother flow of day-to-day responsibilities. In order for ethics to be practiced in a workplace, leaders must not be self-serving, impulsive, or personalized, but rather socialized and devoted to the bigger aims and objectives that would progress others and the general organization. Ethical leaders understand that it is crucial to have honesty, trust, clarity, and accountability demonstrated in their work. Next, please. How do we go about being ethical leaders? Some guidelines that would help leaders to lead in an ethical manner are to reflect honestly on the following questions. Does the action line up with the company's aims as opposed to being driven mainly by selfishness or personal interest? Does the action respect the rights of team members impacted by it? Will the action comply with the criteria of impartiality and equity? Would you like for others to engage in the same action if it impacted you? Reflecting on these questions can help leaders to assess their true intentions and hold themselves accountable for any personalized leadership decisions and encourage them to make the necessary changes in their leadership tactics to progress towards a more positive, successful team or company. So an example of an ethical leader is Nelson Mandela. Next slide, please. Nelson Mandela was born on the 18th of July, 1918. He studied law at the University of Fort Hare and the University of Witwatersrand, Johannesburg, and began participating in anti-colonial politics. Mr. Mandela then joined the political party, the African National Congress, and co-founded its Youth League in 1944. He successfully destroyed the racial discrimination system called apartheid, created by an all-white South African party that was currently ruling. As president of the Transvaal branch of ANC, he headed a demolition campaign against the racist government in 1964. He was then sentenced to life in prison for planning to overpower the government. Mr. Mandela remained in prison for 27 years. He was later freed in 1990 by President F.W. Klerk because of rising local and international forces. Mr. Mandela was empathetic to his supporters. He understood their needs, opinions, and emotions and considered them in his decision-making. He related with his people about how poorly they were being treated and understood their circumstances. He was brave but careful and calculating, and he was not afraid to stand up for his people. Nelson Mandela is a great example of an ethical leader. Ethical leadership can help pave the way to complete fairness and justice in systems and organizations. Next, please. A quote from Harry Truman goes, "Leadership is the ability to get people what they do not want to do and like it." Power and influence play a great role in leadership, and it is important that its different areas be examined before stepping into a leadership role. Power and influence in leadership greatly affect society's happiness and quality of life. Hence, it is important that we are able to assess persons who desire to be in leadership positions so that we can ensure that they possess ethical, effective, and relevant qualities to be good leaders and intend to achieve success for all of their supporters and not just themselves. A great leader is one who can win the hearts of his people by being considerate, progressive, honest, and empathetic to the needs and concerns of others. They also take accountability for their actions, successes, and failures. They lead with the success of their collective team in mind and not just themselves, and they are able to enforce the rules when necessary, doing so in a tactful and respectful manner. Leaders are inspiring and pave clear paths to achieving dreams and visions. Charismatic leaders lead with their charm and inspiring outlooks. Transformational leaders are dedicated to creating change and progress and use their strong, emotionally intelligent personalities to do so. Transactional leaders are witty and intelligent and are able to get others to accomplish tasks by fulfilling their needs and desires. These leadership styles are successful once they are not being abused by leaders. Power is an amazing tool that can be used to bring about change and lead organizations, nations, and societies to success. However, power can also be misused by selfish leaders looking to enrich themselves. It causes various responses like commitment, resistance, adaptation, negotiation, and many more. Power can either bring us all together for good or bad. It can tear us apart, or it can make us all feel heard or unseen. Thank you everyone for listening to us tonight. This concludes our presentation. We hope that it would encourage some reflection and self-improvement. Please feel free to ask any questions you may have. Thank you. And
all right, since there are no questions, I'll stop the recording.